Are you new to Barony and struggling to get your feet off the ground? It might be due to the class you're playing. Every class in Barony has different levels of complexity and survivability. This results in each class thriving in different forms of combat or excelling at different portions of your run. So if you're a beginner to the game and can't figure out which is best for you, this video might help you out. I'll be going over 5 of the most OP classes in Barony for new players, in order from easiest to hardest for beginners. Each will cover different styles of gameplay, and I will list each class's strengths and weaknesses. For convenience, I'll leave chapters in this video with the name of each class and their preferred style of gameplay, so you can easily find what you're after if you already know what you're looking for. Additionally, all of these classes will be from the perspective of someone who's playing as a human, as it wouldn't exactly be a great idea for new players to make things more confusing by trying other races until they're more familiar with how the game works. Alright, that's enough rambling. Let's get onto the list, starting with the Wanderer. The most common beginner tactic is to take things a little slow and loot whenever you can, and the Wanderer is actually really perfect for this playstyle. The main combat skills are balanced between polearms and ranged combat, meaning you can fight up close or from afar, and their stealth allows you to deal additional damage undetected and do so more effectively. They're especially great against skeletons you encounter early on because skeletons are weak to polearms, which makes them a great candidate for new players as well. Their swimming skill allows you to swim through water much faster than other players would without needing to do the tedious swim grind, allowing you to reposition in fights much faster once you reach areas that have water. Their alchemy skill allows you to be more effective with potions for combat, and their trading skill allows you to buy really powerful items from shopkeepers along the way at a much cheaper price. The Wanderer's Hood of Whispers improves your stealth and also allows you to do ranged stealth attacks. The Book of Detect Food will allow players to find scraps around the stage if they start to get hungry, and their Scroll of Magic Mapping will allow you to find a way out if you ever get lost. Their Ring of Warning gives you more awareness of nearby enemies. This helps to prevent you from getting jumped from behind, which could be devastating early on. And of course, their Starting Perception allows you to begin appraising cheaper items from the very start of your run, meaning you won't have to hold onto a bunch of unappraised loot or leave potentially good items behind due to low perception and appraise. The Wanderer does have one small weakness though. Their lack of armor means you have to be quick when fighting your enemies, and you could easily die if outnumbered or cornered. You could equip armor you collect to compensate for this weakness, but you'll be sacrificing your speed in the process. This could result in stealth combat being more difficult to pull off effectively. But all around, the Wanderer is generally an excellent choice for new players due to their starting kit and skills, and also allows for different styles of stealthy combat to further adapt to their surroundings. Up next is the Monk. They are a very simple and easy tank class for beginners to get into. Rather than rely on stealth and varieties of combat like the Wanderer, the Monk prefers to power through their fights quickly and easily up close. Their high unarmed skill and brass knuckles, along with their high base HP, makes for a devastating combo that allows you to simply punch most enemies into dust. While your high blocking skill means you can use shields or even just torches to greatly increase your defense while being used to block attacks. The Monk only offers a slight increase to swimming and alchemy, much smaller than the starting boost the Wanderer offers, but this is balanced out by a small boost to their leadership and a decent boost to their magic and casting skills. To complement their minor magical prowess, they'll also start with a Book of Light. You can use this to learn the light spell. Although it doesn't do much, you can cast it repeatedly throughout the beginning stages with sufficient mana, and this will slowly increase your magic and casting even further, which will allow you to use more advanced spells later on as you find them. If you prefer to take things slow, the Monk also starts with a Ring of Slow Digestion, which greatly slows the rate at which they will become hungry and require food compared to other classes. The Monk's biggest weakness is their terrible perception. Until you're lucky enough to level your perception to appraise items, you are essentially incapable of identifying anything you come across. This could be very dangerous for players early on who are trying to find armor and shields to increase their defense. Additionally, brass knuckles or other forms of melee gauntlets are harder to come across than normal gauntlets, so you might have a hard time finding a new weapon if yours ever breaks. In general, the Monk is for all sorts of tank enjoyers. Whether slow or fast, you can power through quick fights early on so they can improve their melee and magic skills quickly and increase their chances of survival in the long run. Next, we have the Warrior, who shares a similar playstyle to the Monk in terms of their tanky melee combat, but they actually prefer to double down on this concept of being a melee tank rather than to distribute their skills and talents across other professions. They are experts with the polearm, but they also have basic skills in swords and ranged weapons should the situation ever call for this. Their blocking skill starts slightly lower than the Monk, but they start with a shield, and their tanky armor gives them a ridiculously high amount of armor to start with. Their high polearm skill combined with a really good starting spear means the warrior is a juggernaut that absolutely crushes most enemies in melee combat in the beginning areas of the game. Additionally, the warrior starts with a high leadership skill, which means that if you're playing as a human, you can recruit other humans and they'll fight alongside you to further boost your survivability, which is great considering it isn't uncommon to find humans in the mines. Unfortunately, the warrior's immense strength is balanced by his equally harsh downsides. Like the monk, they have terrible perception, which means they'll struggle to appraise items early on. Their horrible intelligence also means they can't really do anything with spellcasting and magic. Worst of all, while their armor is incredibly durable, it's equally as heavy. This means that the warrior struggles to turn and run if their armor and weapons simply can't cut it in a fight, such as when you fight trolls early on. This also means that ranged or magic enemies will prove to be a serious threat when you have to slowly run up to them or when you're trying to get away from their line of sight. To summarize, the warrior is very tanky and powerful in melee combat and is a great leader. They are easily capable of plowing through most enemies in a close-up fight early on, but they're quite unintelligent and struggle against faster enemies who like to keep their distance or use magical attacks. Next is the Cleric, who offers a variety of useful items and skills that grant players a more generalized start, more powerful than most other classes. Their starting skills are assorted similarly to the monk, with decent boosts to skills such as swimming, leadership, and alchemy. Their starting awareness of magic allows them to cast simple spells, and their small increase to blocking will give them a head start in shield combat effectiveness. Their tanky starting armor and shield gives them a massive amount of defense from the start of the game, and their healing potions allow them to recover health if they are wounded from battle. If you run out of potions, or you just need some additional forms of defense, the Cleric also has several scrolls of summon that instantly spawn random allied monsters and companions to aid them in a fight until they die. And the Book of Troll's Blood will allow you to boost the health regeneration of you and your allies or friends. Last but definitely not least is their mace. Although their starting mace skill isn't as high as others like the monk with their unarmed or the warrior with their polearm, the mace deals great damage compared to other starting weapons and is extremely effective against rats and skeletons especially, two of the most common enemies that you will face in the mines. As for their downsides, the Cleric's reliance on these limited use items means you may run out of stock should you be too careless, and you'll be more helpless without your healing or allies. Additionally, their combat skills start relatively low for a melee class, meaning you'll have to spend more time leveling them up if you want to compete in the long run. In the end, the Cleric offers a great start for those who prefer a tankier melee style of combat and starts with powerful consumables to aid them in the beginning portions of the game. Last but not least, we have the Healer. The Healer plays functionally similar to the Cleric, but they have weaker armor, weapons, and utilities, which makes their starting kit a little more difficult to use than the Cleric for newer players. To compensate, the Healer is much stronger with magic and casting to begin with and starts with books that can teach them the healing and cure ailment spells, allowing them to heal themselves and their team, and the ability to cleanse themselves and others nearby of negative effects such as poison or confusion. Additionally, the Healer comes with towels that they can use to stop themselves from bleeding and can even clear your hands of grease if that ever becomes necessary. They spawn with several extra healing potions which can heal for massive amounts of HP, and they also come with a Staff of Slow which can be used either as an escape tool or can make it easier to defeat your enemies with melee early on. If you level your melee skills enough, the Healer is also capable of becoming a tank and excelling in melee combat similarly to the Cleric. But this is also one of the weaknesses of the Healer class. Since they start off with weaker melee capabilities compared to other melee focused classes, beginning players might have a hard time fighting effectively with this class. Therefore, it might be a good idea to try one of the previously mentioned classes and get a good feel for the melee combat in this game before you try and sacrifice your melee strength for more magical power. Additionally, the Healer starts with less max health in favor of more max mana, meaning you can die much more quickly in a fight than other classes, especially when you have less defense than other melees, especially when paired with their low defense. I'd recommend learning to fight weaker enemies while taking little to no hits in return before you decide to use the Healer. All in all, the Healer class is a great introduction to magic for beginners due to being more durable than most magic classes and having heal spells and several great items for support and sustain, but they're relatively weak up close early on and shouldn't be used without basic knowledge of Barony's melee combat mechanics. And with that, those are the 5 most OP classes for beginners of Barony. If you enjoyed this list or you feel it helped you out or you're wanting more guides and tips on the game, feel free to give this video a like and show your support, or subscribe to my channel and check out some of the other guides and videos for information and tips on this game if you need it. I will link a playlist of my Barony videos in the description if you're interested. Comment below what you think the best class is for new players, or feel free to comment what you think I should make a guide on next for this game, and I might choose the most popular request. Anyways, that's all. Bye bye, homies.